Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is Yankee and the Brit, and we are going to review Wildcard weekend. And there were some good games, Maddie. There was some good. Well, we already talked about the game you don't want to probably relive, so we're good there. But there were some good games this weekend.
No, I think we should talk about the Cowboys again. I'm fine reliving it. In hindsight, I think I knew it was coming. Like, I was in a dreamland. I watched our show from week 17 where I said I'm not sure the Cowboys are going to make it past the first round of the playoffs either, when we were arguing about whether I'm a Eagles hater or not. And so I'm fine talking about it, but I was surprised as to how many blowouts there were this week, actually. Like, there were some good games, like the Lions-Rams game, obviously a great, really good football game. The Chiefs versus the Dolphins was close for a period of time.
The Bills-Steelers wasn't a blowout until the end. The Steelers had a shot coming back through that whole game.
Yeah, Josh Allen lovers want to make it sound like the Bills blew out the Steelers, but it was closer than people think.
And it was enjoyable to watch the Texans get that win. It was just, and an odd stat. So Baker Mayfield now has more wins in the playoffs than the Cleveland Browns. And the one playoff win they have, guess who their quarterback was? Baker Mayfield.
Oh, is it Baker Mayfield? Yeah. The Houston Texans now have more playoff wins since they became an organization than the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I read that too. Yeah. The Packers are undefeated.
Oh no, the Packers have more wins at AT&T Stadium in the playoffs.
They're undefeated though at AT&T Stadium.
Yeah, they're undefeated at AT&T Stadium and also have more wins than the Cowboys do at AT&T Stadium, which is fine being undefeated. That's fine, but they also have more wins.
Yeah, no, it's wild.
You're a fucking joke.
The playoffs were wild this weekend. I don't know how to put this exactly. I was excited for the Texans, and I think they're just going to get fucking walked now.
Yeah, should we break down that Texans game first and go through the
because I think they're in running order this weekend. You know what I mean? But that's different. But CJ Stroud, for his first game as a rookie, 16-21, 274 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's an impressive fucking game.
Yeah, and I think the most impressive side of the Texans this year has been like kind of the whole togetherness of the organization, which I think comes down to D'Amico Ryans. But you think of the tire fire that we saw Texas as before D'Amico Ryans gets there, and the fact that their roster is they were basically doing a rebuild over 4 years where they were just rebuilding with third-round talent, fourth-round talent. Obviously, then the stuff with Deshaun Watson happens where they get some holes and stuff like that. Now the Deshaun Watson trade looks amazing because it forces you to take CJ Stroud as well. And the Texans have a whole togetherness in that organization, and it looks fantastic.
Did Lovie Smith actually save the Texans while he was trying to fuck them over? Yeah,
I wonder if...
Do they take Bryce Young if they have the first overall pick?
Yeah, obviously, this has been asked to the Texans.
The way it sounds is Caserio loved Bryce Young.
Yeah, this has been asked to the Texans, and obviously people have said, no, we were always going to take CJ Stroud, but I think that's bullshit because it doesn't get leaked as much that you're upset that Lovie Smith won that game if you're wanting to take Young, does it? Like, it doesn't get leaked as much because then you go, I'm going to get CJ Stroud, so that's fine. Because it was pretty obvious that whoever moves up to first is to get Young, not to get Stroud. I think CJ Stroud is such an interesting player because I think this is the best of CJ Stroud as well. I think this is the highest. When he was coming into the draft, the problem was he's the most NFL ready quarterback coming in. Like we said on the show, and we thought he was way more NFL ready than Young. Like, he's way more NFL ready. However, how high is his ceiling it would be interesting to see if this is the standard now and he's going to progress from there, because we saw it in the Georgia game, and really he's just never had to do that. He never really had to do that at Ohio State. But when he did have to do it, he was able to do it. So is this where he's going to progress from, or is this is his ceiling, this is where he is, and this is who he is as a quarterback at his top range? You think it's his floor? I like that.
I think, and I'm not saying that he will because we are so far away from that. I think he has potential to be one of the greats.
Wow. Yeah, I think like the way that he dissects an offense, and I think he has those intangibles to be a great leader as well. And he's clearly well liked. And with the Texans, the way the organization is set up right now, there's so much cap space to go get other people. They have a young roster in the same way as the Packers, like really young at wide receiver, also young at quarterback. Not the same as the Packers, though, is the fact that they haven't burned the rookie deal like the Packers have with Jordan Love. But
Packers
they're really young.
The youngest
but they're also
team in the NFL, averaging 25 years old.
Yeah, the Packers are the youngest team, but they've already burnt Jordan Love's rookie years on his rookie contract. But that doesn't matter. Still amazing for the Packers as well. The CJ Stroud with the Texans now, they can grow together and grow up, and they can really put the stuff around him with D'Amico Ryans there as well. I think the big star of this game, though, was Bobby Slowick. I think the offensive coordinator was the real star of this game because CJ Stroud was awesome and worked so well within Bobby Slowick's system. And if things break down, he does get you out of it. Unlike a guy like Tua, for example, where Tua, if everything's perfect and everything goes really well, Tua is an amazing quarterback. But if things break down, then Tua's going to struggle. CJ Stroud, when things break down, gets them out of trouble. But Bobby Slowick put him in a position to really succeed in that game. That game plan was amazing.
They put up all those 45 points, and they only had 76 yards of rushing.
Yeah. What was amazing was the fact that Myles Garrett didn't have a stamp on that game at all. That's also the other star of the show is Laramie Tunsil, the left tackle. I've just realized how interesting his name is because it's a combination of Larry and Jeremy, which are two names that I would say.
As we shit on Bill O'Brien for trading away everybody, then we might as well praise him for bringing in Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah, that's fair. Is Laramie Tunsil the offensive lineman who did the gas mask before fucking getting drafted? Smart. It's actually worked out quite well for him, to be honest. Yeah. The Texans look. The GM office is doing everything right now. That stadium was rocking. I think that really helped them as well. And this just shows what happens when you find the right quarterback. For all of those people who are like a bit iffy on your quarterback, it does start to look like you may as well take the shot and see if you've got like a right guy.
Well, and it's weird because the thing with Nick Caserio is, as much as he gets fucking shit on, picked on, whatever, he's done a great job of rebuilding this team. And now everybody's like, oh, he's going back to the Patriots. He's going back to the Patriots. And why would you leave this fucking situation? And I got to see now, Maddie's okay. I had to see what you were smiling about, and I seen the little like, hey, you got a comment on there. So
he does indeed blow. You're right, Smoke.
So why would you leave the perfect situation that you just built with the Texans to go back to New England and start over? Like, you already proved you can do it. You just rebuilt the Texans. Why would you take another shot before you get to see this all the way through? The only thing I worry about is how long before CJ Stroud we're having this conversation. Well, this is his third offensive coordinator in 3 years. This is his fourth offensive coordinator in 4 years. Like, you take it back to Kirk Cousins. Last year was the only time in his whole career he's had the same offensive coordinator twice. If he returns to the Vikings this year, or that was the second time, if he returns to the Vikings, think about this. it'll be the only time in his career he's ever had the same offensive coordinator for 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
When is that going to happen to CJ, right? When does that become a problem? Learning a new system every season.
Yeah, because you have the same with Jalen Hurts right now, right? Where Jalen has had to come into the league. He's had to learn 3 offensive systems in the league since he's been there, and you're like, well, like what chance have I got there with consistency? Because like Hurts's career, fucking amazing in his second year, first year, rookie year, all right, and then third year playing Hurts. So I understand there's mitigating factors and stuff, but it has been quite up and down realistically. But that you can put that down to the offensive coordinators, and we'll talk about this more probably when we get to the Eagles. But it is the reason why you kind of want your head coach to be able to have some form of offensive play calling ability. It's why, like, whether they're calling the plays or not, it's like Sean McVay doesn't call the offensive plays, but when he's having to change offensive coordinator because his offensive coordinators
when Kevin O'Connell was there, he called all the plays. Kevin never called a game under McVay.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Does he still?
I don't know if he still does. I'm just saying when O'Connell was there,
really,
O'Connell was the offensive coordinator, but McVay called the plays. So that was a big shot against the Vikings hiring O'Connell. Is he's never called plays, but we've seen. I don't think anybody can argue that O'Connell's a fucking offensive genius, and it helps that he's worked with Jay Gruden and Kyle Shanahan and McVay. Like he's been around some of the greatest. So the same thing with Bobby. You just said his name, but the dude from the Tech, he's been around great offensive minds.
He was on that Washington Commanders coaching staff as well. That had Shanahan, McVay, McDaniel. It's also had Slowick. It has somebody else that's offensive coordinating in the league now as well. Kevin O'Connell, like all on that same staff.
That's when because RG3 had enough balls to make a comment that he wasn't coached up well when he was in Washington.
Yeah,
and
all the
like,
best. Like
Jay Gruden took a shot at him on Twitter the other day, going, "Yeah, we didn't have a very good coaching staff." Because if you look at that coaching staff, it's like a killer of some of the best coaches in the NFL.
Yeah. If I'm Bobby Slowick, I'm probably staying another year with CJ Stroud. Like, take your shot at head coaching job if it comes up, man. Like, obviously, like you don't know when you're going to get that shot again. So take your shot.
He's one of the guys who can be picky, like because you're still going to be wanted next year. Like, remember D'Amico Ryans pulled himself out of all the runnings the year before and goes, "I don't want to interview for any head coaching jobs," because he knew he was going to get one sooner or later. So he held out for one that he really wanted.
Yeah. So the same thing with Mayo, who's now the head coach in the Patriots. He had it written into his contract, like, I won't go take any of these jobs if I become the Bill Belichick's follow-on guy.
How come nobody's talking about how that's against the NFL rules to name a successor?
Yeah.
It's against their rules.
We know why. We know why people are saying it's okay. Because it's against the Rooney rule, right? Like, the Rooney rule is the main issue. Like, that it breaks that rule. But that rule is brought in to get more non-white coaches into the NFL.
But
and
it
Mayo is a
still
non-white
says
coach.
you cannot point a successor in their rules. And you can't even get a waiver anymore like you used to. And then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh yeah, it was written into," and they're getting around it because they're saying it was written into Bill's contract, not Mayo's.
But that's like saying the king wrote it into his contract, but it's not an succession plan. But anyway,
right. This is my problem with it. Like, I don't have a problem with Mayo. I think he's a great pick, but
I guess the outcome of the Rooney Rule, I guess it's because the reason that the Rooney Rule is there, the outcome for the Rooney Rule has still happened. Like, it's still, like, the coach is there. And I guess this kind of negates the fact that people say, well, the Rooney Rule stops coaches being there on merit and all of that kind of stuff because this guy is the successor and all of those kind of things. So I guess it's a good thing. But it shouldn't happen. And the Patriots bend the rules however the fuck they want to anyway.
I know you're not saying it, but I got to clap back at those people who are like, it takes away from some of the time. No, it just gives these guys exposure. You still hire who you want.
Yeah.
And the great thing is, and so I'll tell this to every coordinator, even if you don't want to take a coaching job, right? Head coaching job, take the interviews.
Yeah.
Because you take these interviews and you learn how to interview with these billionaires so that when you do want a job, it's not the first time you walked into one of these 8-hour interviews, right? So like take the interview, even if you're not going to take the job, just to get that interview experience for the NFL oligarchs, that they can, like get the experience of these kinds of interviews and things, that because I've never been in an 8-hour interview. I'm guessing you've never been in an 8-hour interview. No. You know what I mean? So like nobody even knows like how do these even work? So I always think that these guys should take the interviews. And I know that there's people like that are mad going, Steve Wilkes is only getting interviewed because he's black and he helps fill the Rooney Rule. That was probably true when Mike Tomlin got interviewed by the Steelers at the age of 32 or whatever it was, because he was the Vikings defensive coordinator and he got the job. So you never know. Take that interview. Like you might blow them away in that interview.
There are also plenty of guys in the league who also have their jobs because of who their parents are, because of who they're like, and things like that. So like you can say like all of this stuff about the Rooney Rule and whatever. One, it only becomes kind of tokenism and a bit dicey. This happens in South African cricket, for example. They have to have a certain percentage of non-white players in the team. Like, because obviously South Africa is like mainly black, but all the power is
white people, right?
White. Yeah. Well, yes. To bring everything down to a simple level. But then you get loads of white South African players who end up playing for England because they're good enough to play for South Africa, but they're not within the 6 best white players. So to play cricket for South Africa, you have to be in the top 6 white players in the country, because 5 players have to be black, non-white, and stuff like that. So then you get like numbers 7 to 11 play cricket for England like a lot of the time because they can trace a certain amount of heritage back to being British.
This is why I hate people in general, okay? All sports should be a meritocracy. All sports. Probably everything in life should be, but I'm sure
all life should be a meritocracy.
I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule, but definitely in sports, right? Everything should be a meritocracy. It shouldn't matter if you're fucking purple. Like, if you're the best at that position, then you play. Unless the only time I agree with not bringing in a better player is, so say you have a young team or you have a young player who you think is going to be really good, but he needs some time. Don't bring in a vet and take away from the learning of the young guy, even if he's going to have some bumps, because by week 10, he might be helping you win and you just hurt him by not. But otherwise, I'm a firm believer of the best player should play. Like, I don't give a fuck about any of the other shit. I don't give a fuck about your race. I don't give a fuck about your religion. I don't give a fuck about your sexual preference. Like, I don't give a fuck. If you're the best D-end, you should be out there playing D-end.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess with your example there, it's the veteran, the young player is still the best for the role long term. Like, that's
even if they're not the best player right now.
Right. Yeah. So the good example is Anthony Richardson versus Gardner Minshew, where it's like, okay, Gardner Minshew probably got you more wins this season, but if you played Anthony Richardson through this season, he probably gets you more wins over the next 5 years if he's any good. Like, that's the way to, that's the example that I think of. We've gone off on a bit of a tangent with the Rooney Rule there, but Bobby Slowick should stay as a Texan for one more year at least. Use CJ Stroud right now, and especially because of the coaching, like, all the best jobs are going to be hoovered up by other people right now. So go take all of the interviews, Bobby Slowick. You're right. Like, interview for every single job. But John Harbaugh is going to take one of the best jobs in the NFL. Bill Belichick's probably going to take one of the best jobs in the NFL. Vrabel's probably going to then get the long-term one. Pete Carroll might come in for somebody, and you also have like Ben Johnson, who's probably going to be the pick over you because he's got more experience with the Lions than you do with the Texans and things like that. I'm probably sure there's like a left field person who's going to come in who's like Shanahan's wide receiver coach or something, will probably end up with
They
like an
will never
offensive
do
coordinator
it.
job.
But Detroit should fire Dan Campbell and hire Johnson and move on. But they'll never do it.
That's what I had this exact same thought the other day. We can talk about this when we talk about the Detroit game. But I had the exact same thought.
So I love that the Texans won this game. I love what the Texans are building. But now, and we'll get into the depth of that in the next episode, but now they hit a buzzsaw in the next round.
Yeah, I mean, like, if they get the win against Baltimore, then that's unbelievable, isn't it? Like, they've already... Look, I think they'll go in with an excellent plan. I think they'll have offensive challenges for the Ravens. Defensively, I worry about their ability to stop the Ravens because although their defense played well against the Browns, there was an element of Joe Flacco just for like about 3 drives. Was it he threw 2 back-to-back pick sixes? Like,
that was rough.
Joe Flacco just
turned back into Joe Flacco.
Yeah, he turned into regular. It's almost like he had playoff Joe Flacco in the regular season and then regular season Joe Flacco in the playoffs this year and just went that way around. But if you also look at the stats as well, like everybody's saying Joe Flacco is great. Remember, like Joe Flacco has had a great season. He's probably secured himself a job somewhere, whether it's with the Browns, who I think it should be while they wait on this Deshaun Watson contract to sort of sort itself out. Eventually in whatever year that's going to take it to be.
27 is when they can walk away without being killed.
Yeah. So you start Deshaun Watson when he's terrible again and looks washed as ever, then you play Joe Flacco, like that's fine. I think the Browns would be stupid to let him walk away. However, he threw 10 interceptions in 5 games like this year. And that's going to lose you football games. If you're not like, so Josh Allen throws interceptions and loses you football games, fine. But Josh Allen can also win you football games by himself. So like you eat it with Josh Allen. If you can't win the game by yourself and you have the potential for losing football games, that's not exactly who you want. Like Joe Flacco's had a great season, don't want to take anything away, but 10 interceptions in 5 games is pretty gnarly.
And the Browns are stuck with Watson because of if they cut him or trade him, he's a $200 million cap hit, $200+ million cap hit.
Yeah, so you keep Joe Flacco, right? Like however much they need to pay Joe Flacco, you keep him as the backup. You start Deshaun Watson and hope that he finds Deshaun Watson again, and then you play Joe Flacco when inevitably Deshaun Watson doesn't have that.
I don't disagree with your premise, but I think because they have DTR, they'll let Flacco walk again.
Yeah, I don't know what you're hoping from in DTR, but maybe I'm just being harsh on DTR.
You're hoping for a cheap backup that can maybe take over for Watson when Watson, you know what I mean? And then you have the most expensive backup quarterback in the history of the NFL at $35 million a year or whatever it was. Yeah.
Classic. Yeah, but I think Joe Flacco has secured himself a job for next season. Like Joe Flacco in Denver, for example, because obviously they're moving off Russell Wilson, but they don't have huge trade capital. They don't have any option of getting anybody in the trade market. So I don't know who their plan is to get. They just don't want Russell Wilson anymore. He
could end up as a starter because when this merry-go-round of quarterbacks stop, right? Somebody's going to end up without a seat, like they're playing Duck, Duck, Goose or some shit or musical chairs, right? So you're going to have a team out there that needs a starting quarterback, and your best option might be, let's call in Joe Flacco and ride out this year with Joe and see where we're going from there.
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if next year Carson Wentz and Joe Flacco don't have starting jobs in the NFL. Because they should have had starting jobs in the NFL.
The only thing with Carson Wentz is it's like you hear that he's not a good teammate. He's got a bad attitude. That's the kind of shit that
Yeah. I guess you hope he's been humbled, right? Like in LA, and you see what happens there. He's too good to be backing up is the main thing.
I just saw a stat the other day that Nick Foles has more playoff wins than Romo and Dak put together.
Yeah, I saw that one too. That one was almost too hurtful because it includes Romo as well. Like,
And
I'm okay with slagging off Dak, but when we hit Romo, I just get sad.
And it shows Nick Foles in an Eagles uniform.
Yeah, I got it. I've seen it. Seen the meme. He's also won more Super Bowls than the Cowboys have since 1995 and more NFC Championship games than the Cowboys have since 1995. Like, it's, that's just horrible. All the rest of them are fine.
I think
I've seen people say that Myles Garrett's... Sorry. I've seen a few people say that Myles Garrett's overrated this year. Have you seen that? Like, that's crazy to me. Stop it. They just created a perfect offense against Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett and TJ Watt are the only two that should be in the running right now for Defensive Player of the Year.
Agreed. Yeah, 100%. But Myles Garrett, like, the Texans just created a perfect offense to combat Myles Garrett in that particular game, and their left tackle. That's one of the most impressive performances I've seen at left tackle in a long time.
Yeah, it was exciting. I think it was fun for everybody outside of Cleveland to watch the Texans win that game. Like I said, I just think they're going to hit a buzzsaw in the Ravens. If they beat the Ravens, it'll be a hell of a story too. But let's talk about the team. I actually, at first, thought they could go to the Super Bowl. They were my early I was saying it. Then I thought they couldn't. But then, damn, they looked like the old Chiefs again in the playoffs playing the Dolphins. I know it was cold. I know the Dolphins don't do well in cold games. I know the Dolphins don't do well against winning teams either. But, like, the Chiefs actually looked like the Chiefs. And we've talked a little bit about it through the year because we talked about it in fantasy. But Rice really looks like he's that guy now.
Yeah, we were on the Rice train quite early on that one. I always like to point out our big wins that people might forget, because there's obviously the little wins. So, like, for example, we both predicted 4-2. Like, we both went 4-2 for predictions this week. That's a little win. That's like okay, good. Rice being the number one wide receiver for the Chiefs, that's a big win for us when we were talking about fantasy. So I always like to remember those and point those out. Yes, Rice looked immense in that game, and he had a big coming out game, whilst Travis Kelce was also dropping balls as well. Like, normally when your girlfriend shows up, you go like superhuman. Like, but Travis Kelce seemed to go the other way.
Can I ask something quick?
Game. Hit me.
Why is it that everybody's so mad about Taylor Swift, but everybody thinks Eminem for Detroit is the greatest thing ever? Like,
yeah, I don't
stop hating on Taylor Swift. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. I don't listen to Taylor's music. I even made the joke that this is great for Taylor because she either finds the love of her life or she makes another hit album, because she writes about dudes she breaks up with and all of her albums. But I joke about that. But why are people so mad? I think it's me and my wife were talking about this. I think it is such a great thing that her fan base is now finding the NFL, which they would have never watched without Taylor Swift. And now they're actually enjoying football and bringing more people to this sport. I don't understand why that's a negative.
Yeah. Do you think that Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce's podcast has, like, their views are blowing up? Like, it's one of the top NFL podcasts, and obviously they would have those views. Yeah, he's retiring. But would they have that many views if it wasn't Taylor Swift fans going, let's see who Travis Kelce is. Okay. Let's get to see more about Travis Kelce.
They'd still be one of the biggest podcasts because they were before her. But there's no argument that that it helps, because two things. One, his Instagram gained 700,000 followers like within 48 hours after dating Taylor Swift. Okay, which is wild. And then one of my best friends in the whole world, my friend Andrew, his mother watches New Heights, but she doesn't watch football. She's not a Taylor Swift fan either, but she likes their podcast. Like, we live in a wild day and age where my buddy's 60-something-year-old mom is watching New Heights.
Cynthia messaged me from Poland yesterday and said, so hasn't been around while we've been talking about the shows, hasn't seen this news. She knows the NFL because I watch it in our house and we don't have loads of space like all of the time. So she knows the NFL, but not like in depth. And she messages me saying, is Jason Kelce retiring? So not even Travis Kelce news. Travis Kelce's brother is retiring. And my girlfriend, who's like, likes to listen to the sounds of the games, but isn't always sure what's going on. Like, she knows the Cowboys players and that's about it. Message me and says, this guy's brother is retiring, and goes, isn't he one of the best centers around and stuff? Why is he retiring? And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What world is going on here? This is so... And I was like, I'm so happy that we can have this conversation. This is great. But there's no bad thing about fans showing up, new fans. The reason is people don't like Taylor Swift is a massive feminist, and she's also like the most popular pop star in the world. Taylor Swift was a country star from Nashville when she first started out. Like, country music, American football go really hand in hand. Just people like country music and rap music, like country music and hip hop are like the two things, the music genres that I think go with American football the best, right? Which is why people say Eminem is like annoying and why Eminem is fine. But Taylor Swift is now a pop star, and it's like, she's only a pop star to make money. Like, country, she was
Can we be honest? He's one of the greatest rappers ever, but he's a pop star too, because the word pop is just derived from the word popular.
Yeah. So it's just like, it's just different. Like, it's, I don't get it. I don't get the hate on Taylor. It is funny to poke jokes at Travis Kelce when he plays like shit and she's there. Like, that's funny. Like, that's
no,
fine.
I agree. I just get so caught off guard the true hatred that she's bringing in casual fans. Who gives a fuck? This is better for the NFL. It's better for the players. The more money they spend on Travis Kelce jerseys, the more money the NFL gets in salary cap the next year. Like, the more people who turn into the networks, the more they charge for ad revenue, the more that your team has to spend on players next year.
Did you see the jacket that Taylor Swift is wearing?
That was made by whose
Carl
wife?
Carl Juszczyk's wife, and he's gone around commenting because Simone Biles had one. And he's gone around commenting on every single one, saying, my wife made this, my wife made that. He's just gone through. So Carl Juszczyk, I imagine, is making quite a lot of money right now on Kansas City 87 jersey jackets, or like general just players' wives are probably going to hit up his wife quite a lot, getting him some jackets.
I'm actually waiting for Nike to sue her. For using the jerseys. Like, Nike's petty.
It's like Etsy, right? It's Etsy, so the pattern stuff is a little different, but yeah, probably
Nike's pretty petty when it comes to that shit. So
yeah,
maybe because they're the sponsor of the NFL, they're gonna let it ride and do something with her, hopefully, instead of come at her, because those were some pretty slick fucking jackets. Like, if
they'll take a cut, right? Like, what's going to happen is they're going to take a cut, she's going to design them, and then they're going to make them for her, and they're going to take a cut, and she'll take a cut. And because and that's what should happen.
Get me a Vikings one. I'm all in. They looked warm as
I'd
fuck
have one.
Too.
I'd have one. I always get Jason Witten jerseys, or because I don't like singular digit jerseys, so I can't always have Tony Romo number 9. So I always get Jason Witten because he's already been a Cowboy and won't go to another team.
That's wild, because I only wanted single digits growing up.
Really?
In hockey, I always wore number 4, but if you play defense, you want 2 or 4 in hockey. That's like the numbers, right? Okay. So number 4 bled out to every sport for me. So even in football, when I was a fullback and a linebacker, I was number 4.
Right, okay. In rugby, you go from 1 to 23. And it depends on position. So my position was always 10, 14, 15, or I was on the bench and I was 22. So I've always had double digits. And when I played like European football, I was number 10 and number 11 as well. So I guess that could be it, actually. Yeah, that could be it. But yeah, the actual game itself, the Chiefs did look really good. Patrick Mahomes shows you why he's so much better than people have been giving him credit for this year, because when you see Tua's arm in that wind, and Tua doesn't have a strong arm, like that's always been his, like the problem that people cite when he came into the NFL, that Tua has like a noodle arm. All the videos of fucking Miami absolutely ruining his rhetoric by showing that he underthrew Tyreek Hill when he first got to camp and all of that kind of thing. But in that game, like, it is cold and it is windy, so no shade on Tua for not being able to zip that ball around either. But Patrick Mahomes is sat there like throwing when they came out throwing, and Patrick Mahomes is lighting it up with absolute dimes. You just think, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is something else.
And Pacheco runs like the ground did him dirty, like the ground did something wrong to him.
Yeah,
and he didn't hit 100, but he hit like 89. And it was a very strong running game. It opened up everything.
It was a strong 89. There isn't a more clutch running quarterback in the NFL either than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the most clutch running quarterback, because like obviously he's not the best running quarterback. Like obviously Lamar Jackson, like Jalen Hurts when he's not injured. Patrick Mahomes, Justin Fields, Josh Allen, like there's plenty that are better. But on 3rd and 10, nobody spies Patrick Mahomes, and you really do need to. Like he broke off like a big run in that game on 3rd and long, and that kept it moving, got them their start of their touchdown. And Isaiah Pacheco, if Buffalo need the snow clearing again, just put a fucking plow on front of Isaiah Pacheco and he'll just run through that shit and clear the field for you single-handedly. I think we said before the game last time, I want no part of tackling Isaiah Pacheco in -22 wind chill. Like I want absolutely no part of it in tackling him at all.
I want no part of 22 below, but okay.
Yeah.
So with the games coming next week, everybody's so excited about the Chiefs-Bills game. It will be interesting to see Patrick Mahomes not play at home. Like I said, we'll get into depth on those games more in our next show. But I think, I hate to be a prisoner of the moment, but I feel like it's not a prisoner of the moment because we have history. I think the Chiefs just turned a switch on that nobody thought was possible to turn the switch on after the way they struggled through the regular season. And I think everybody in this playoff should be scared to be playing the Chiefs right now.
Yeah, I think, again, the Chiefs are better when they play within a system. And the force system of playing... By the way, the AFC is like... We'll talk about the Dolphins in a second and what they need to do going forward. But the AFC is like the cold conference at the moment, where they're all outdoor stadiums that runs through the AFC. Like, unless I'm pretty sure the Texans can't get a home game. No, they can't, because they're a lower seed than everybody else. So it either runs through Buffalo, it either ran through, like, obviously the Houston, fine, but then the other home stadiums, Chiefs, Bills, Baltimore, all outside, no domes, freezing cold. Game had to be moved because it was postponed because of a snowstorm. Sorry, in one of those AFC games. Like the Dolphins, if they want to win the AFC, either need to be the first seed, or they need to learn how to play outside in the fucking cold. Like they need cold weather training, like right now, like instantly. The Chiefs, however, I think the cold helps them.
Well, see, I was saying that to you before the game. Like, you were like, home players don't like cold weather games either. And I said, that's true. But if you take Sam K, who's lived in Texas and fucking Nevada his whole life, right? He lives in Vegas. And you brought him to Wisconsin right now. And you put me and him outside. He's not going to last 5 minutes. I grew up in this. I will last longer than him, even though we're both miserable. So, like, there's something to that. Like, there's something to, like, being used to playing in that cold and the little things. You and I talked about this, but I don't know if everybody knows this. Darius Butler and Aaron Rodgers pointed this out. Darius Butler played in New England. Obviously, Rodgers played in Green Bay. When it's cold, You don't see the home team sitting on the heaters. You see the away team sitting on the heaters.
Yeah.
And it's because the home team, like Darius Butler and Aaron Rodgers said, you get warm, but then as soon as you have to go out and play, you're freezing and all your muscles tighten up.
Yeah, Tua wrapped himself up in like blankets and like massive coats and everything, and it looked like his arm got stiff. But I also think, obviously, the cold helps the Chiefs and like to an extent helps Buffalo as well. But I also think having to play in the cold helps the Chiefs because it forces them to play the game that they should be playing. Conservative pass, run the fucking football. Your defense is probably, like, outside of the Ravens, is the best in the AFC right now. Like, the Browns obviously aren't in the competition anymore. But the Chiefs can hide behind this amazing defense. They can say, right, we'll only throw the ball when Rice or Kelsey have a good look, or we absolutely have to, or we just make it very easy to get Tony the ball and make a big play, and hopefully he won't fucking drop it or fumble it or whatever. And it forces them to play a more conservative style of football, which is actually way better for them. In the same way that last year in their Super Bowl run, not having Tyreek Hill made Patrick Mahomes play a more conservative in-system style of football, and it was the best that Patrick Mahomes looked on a consistency week-to-week basis as well. So I think forcing them to play this way is better for the Chiefs as well.
Well, I'm going to jump around a little, but since they're the team that they have to play next week, let's talk about that Steelers-Bills game. I don't think anybody was shocked that the Bills won this game, but I'm not going to lie, kind of impressed with the Steelers ending out the year. And I know Maddie likes to always go, yeah, those 11-0 fucking Steelers. Like, that's Maddie's go-to, even though that is the team that went 12-4 and put 37 points up in their playoff game they lost to Baker. But we leave that out. But that Steelers team looked like they got better towards the end of the year with a below average quarterback who still, nobody can convince me that Kenny Pickett's better than Mason Rudolph. You can't. Even if you believe it, I don't agree. So to me, that just proves that the Steelers' problem is their quarterback. And I think we have a completely different Steelers team if they can figure out what to do at that quarterback position.
I wonder if the Steelers had Joe Flacco. Oh, fuck. Imagine Joe Flacco having to go back to have to play Baltimore twice a year. That'd be crazy. But if the Steelers had
an upgrade, it'd be an upgrade over the three quarterbacks they have.
I think Kenny Pickett is an interesting one because I think Kenny Pickett is playing with the pressure of being a first-round pick, and that's why he can't air it out like Mason Rudolph. If he airs it out and throws 3 interceptions or whatever, like
that's fine. Like, but here's the thing: if you can't handle the pressure of being the first-round quarterback, you can't handle the pressure of a playoff game.
Yeah, that is part. Like that is all part of it. So if Kenny Pickett goes to a fucking sports psychologist or whatever and sorts that shit out, then I do think he has the talent to be a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. Like,
I love that we don't always agree on shit, but I don't. Yeah. Because even coming out of college, I was like, why is this noodle-armed, semi-accurate quarterback getting so much love in this draft?
Yeah. If he was in this draft of quarterback coming out now, like if he was entering the 2024 5th round, yeah, he'd be the same like level of pick as like Sam Howell and people like maybe
Jaron
maybe Hall. Maybe DTR, like maybe he hits the 4th round, like maybe, like for people who really need
maybe he hits the 7th, because once you get that late in the draft, sometimes teams just are like, I'm not even gonna fucking,
don't even need the quarterback right now.
Yeah.
With Kenny Pickett, I do think there's, again, it's how it's about how you want to build your team with guys like Kenny Pickett, where I don't think Kenny Pickett, I'm pretty sure he's not in the top 20 of quarterbacks in the NFL. In which case, what are you doing if he's not the top 20? Like, you're always looking for something else. But right now, with the amount of injuries that are happening to quarterbacks, with the poor quarterback play in essence. At the very top, I think quarterback plays as good as it has ever been. And at the very bottom, it's as bad as it has ever been. And in the middle, it's probably realistically, it's probably a bit better than what it's ever been, but you don't really look at the middle that often. But there are more players like losing games now, like than there ever have been.
So I hope this doesn't happen, but if you're Pittsburgh, if you're Atlanta, you're trying to sign Kirk Cousins for 3 years in this offseason. You're trying to back up a truck and give this guy, like, picture Kirk Cousins with Bill Belichick in Atlanta for 3 years with that team.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying, like, I mean, picture even Russell Wilson with Bill Belichick in Atlanta, or Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh with Tomlin and that team, right? They're going to embrace him. They're never going to make the whole thing about him. They're never going to make you carry the fucking team on your back. Like, there is guys who are going to be out there this year that teams there's going to be multiple teams who should be going after these quarterbacks. And more recent years, we've seen more quarterbacks being traded or hit the market than ever before, because we're getting more quarterbacks out of the draft also. And I'm guessing they will, but if they don't extend, if the Lions don't extend Goff, then you should be on the phone with the Lions seeing what they want for Goff if they're going to move on to. Like, there's so many quarterbacks out there though that we've never seen before that are going to move to different teams that could be upgrades to what these guys already have, right? Like, you said it a million times. Atlanta could be on the phone for Justin Fields. Would Justin Fields not be an upgrade to Kenny Pickett, even though you know what I think about Justin Fields? But would he not be an upgrade? Would that receiving core not be an upgrade from what he's got? I don't hate Chicago's receiving core, but Johnson, Pickens, like Freiermuth, I mean, there's fucking real talent on the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's quarterbacks out there that if you're willing to make the move, that you can upgrade your quarterback faster than you ever used to be able to, because it used to be, I have to find him in the draft.
Yeah, Justin Fields is an interesting one for the Steelers, because the two things he throws a beautiful deep ball. Like, does he let go of it enough? Does he read the field fast enough? Does it take him too long to have to let go of that deep ball because he doesn't anticipate the deep ball coming open? He needs to see it open before he releases it. So he holds onto the ball too long and cover it. But when he does throw the deep ball, it is beautiful. Like, he throws an absolute cannon of a deep ball and he runs the ball well. What do the Steelers really need to do? When have the Steelers looked good this season?
When they run the ball,
run the ball into play action, one-on-one big boy matchups for Pat Freiermuth, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson downfield. You go, well, fucking hang on then. Like,
and what about a triple option?
Great fit for Justin Fields
with him there. You could run a triple option with him there too. Like, there's it'd be an upgrade to the three they have.
I think it's an upgrade in terms of fit, definitely. 100%. And there's other guys out there. I worry about guys like Russell Wilson and Carson Wentz as well going to the Steelers due to the weird locker room vibes of the wide receiver core anyway in the Steelers.
I think they would embrace him. I think it would cheer up the wide receiver
maybe Russell
core,
Wilson.
They watch Kenny Pickett every day in practice. And I literally bet those receivers talk when they're hanging out together like, we are not going to win. Even if they love Kenny. Like, we are not going to win with this dude being quarterback. Russell Wilson has a ring. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. And yes, he was awful under Hackett, but after watching him last year with a coach who did not want him, or this last year, I think Russell can still play. Is he the Russell Wilson of the Legion of Boom? Probably not. But do we not think that Russell Wilson would have succeeded in Cleveland? Because I do. I think with that defense and that talent, Russell Wilson would have succeeded with that team. So, like, if you put him on the right team, I think the Steelers, Atlanta, I think those are 2 perfect fits for Russell Wilson. And and it might be the Badger fan in me, because Russell, like, is a Badger, might be the Badger fan in me hoping and being like, biased, but I think Russell Wilson could have a resurgence in his career if he just got with the right coach and the right offense. I mean, I love Baker and Baker's doing great. I think Russell would have played well with Tampa too this year. So I think it's a situation.
Yeah.
And there's teams like, I think the Steelers need to let go of this dream that Kenny Pickett is their future. Find a veteran quarterback that you can play with right now, and then draft a J.J. McCarthy, draft a Rattler, draft one of these guys you think you might be able to develop for 2 or 3 years under, and J.J. McCarthy might have been a bad example because he's going to go higher, but get you a Spencer Rattler in a later round and try to develop this guy and see if you can build something under Russell Wilson. And I think the more I think about it, that's the perfect spot is there or Atlanta for me to see Russell Wilson go.
Yeah. And with Russell Wilson as well, I think he's suffered for this idea of Denver have a stellar wide receiver room. The Denver roster is fucking incredible.
Talked about that.
We've talked about this a lot where what have we seen where Jerry Jeudy? I think I can remember one game where I've seen
who did you
Jerry
just
Jeudy
tell me that
guy.
Jerry? Who did you just text me the other day and goes, that's what they thought Jerry Jeudy would do? Yeah.
Devontae Smith is who everybody thinks Jerry Jeudy is.
Right.
But he's not.
Right.
Jerry Jeudy is like, I don't even know. Like, he's not awful. Like, maybe like Randall Cobb in his prime.
Let me ask this question. I mean, seriously, you take Brandon Powell or Jerry Jeudy?
That's different.
The fact that you're even thinking about it proves my point. The fact that you're even thinking about it proves my point. Like, that's it. Because I would take KJ Osborne over Jerry Jeudy for what KJ's done over the last few years. So it's just.
I think I'd be too tempted into Jerry Jeudy for that. But yes, the fact that I have to think.
Is it just his name though? Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Is it just his name? Like, so
yeah.
Because there was times where people were like, Jerry Judy's going to be better than CeeDee Lamb.
That entire draft, it was Jerry Jeudy's better than CeeDee Lamb. That was the debate, isn't it? Jerry Jeudy's better than CeeDee Lamb. Well, like, they're not even close on an NFL field. And everybody goes, oh, well, Jerry Jeudy's not had great. When Russell Wilson had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, it was let Russ cook, But Cortland Sutton or Drake London.
I'm taking Drake London, but yes, so
like Drake London doesn't get a lot of love.
It's
either.
Just
like, he gets a lot of love from me.
It's not the shit on Drake London. It's just, to me, he's more of a tight end than a wide receiver.
Yeah, I love him with Kyle Pitts. I think is the reason that I like him that much, because I think that with Atlanta, you then just have this. If you get a guy who's up for just throwing the fucking thing in the air, then you get this guy. They haven't had that guy for long enough. Or Arthur Smith is not said to your quarterback, just let it go and let it rip, because Taylor Heineke was that guy when he was in Washington and then stopped it in Atlanta.
So
Russell Wilson to the Steelers.
Do you think
is a
he'd
good
be
idea.
better? Do you think he'd be an upgrade in Pittsburgh?
Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder about personality clashes and all of that kind of stuff with the wide receiver room.
Doesn't he seem like the nicest guy in the fucking world, though? Like, you're only hating on him.
I never understand, like, the whole Russell Wilson personality issue until, like, it becomes an issue. I think it's almost like Russell Wilson, I think, might be one of the quarterbacks that I'd rather go for a coffee with than any other quarterback in the NFL, but I wouldn't want to go for a beer with Russell Wilson. And then that's why NFL players don't like Russell Wilson, because he's like more, let's go for midday brunch than he is, let's go for a pint after the game.
The only players that ever seemed to talk bad about him were the Legion of Boom, and I think that had a lot to do with Pete Carroll wanting Russell Wilson to be the face of that team over the defense. I think Pete Carroll caused that rift.
And the second, so throwing it instead of handing it off to.
Yeah, but that's not on Russell. That's Pete Carroll. That's
I know. Yeah. Because Marshawn Lynch, because I think Marshawn Lynch also classes himself as part of the Legion of Boom because it creates that whole like identity of like we're this rough, like because Legion of Boom is really just the defensive unit, but Marshawn Lynch going beast mode also kind of factors into that. So you get Marshawn Lynch coming on podcast saying like, if they gave me the ball, we would have got a touchdown. You get Richard Sherman, who's
they would have. They had
Richard
two or three fucking downs to pound beast mode for a yard. Yes, they would have won.
And he's not wrong. Like, he's not wrong. Obviously, the fact that Russell Wilson throws the pick isn't helpful, but it's also very clear on that entire route that was where the ball was always going. That's where this play, the ball is meant to go there. There's no other route really being run. And is it Butler who intercepts it on the goal line? Like, just makes a good play, and you're like, oh, fuck, right, okay.
All you have
which
to
is
do
wrong
to
and
know
stupid.
How shocking that play was. Watch Brady dance and scream like a fucking 9-year-old girl on the sideline.
Yeah.
Brady literally danced and screamed like a 9-year-old girl. Like, and so.
Yeah, not good. And so just to bring it back to the Steelers now, kind of before we move on and hit another tangent. I think the Steelers, like, they've done really well this season. Mike Tomlin gets another winning season. I think the Steelers office was right to question Tomlin and say, like, do we really want to keep like just hitting these winning seasons and then go to the Super Bowl and not go far and then be out round one in the playoffs? I think they were right to question it, think about it, and then they came to the right conclusion, which is no, we stick with Tomlin and hopefully we find him a decent quarterback, which I think is the way that all of that seemed to plan out right for me.
Yeah, I think if Tomlin was gone, it was because he chose to leave. At no point did I think the Steelers were going to fire him. So, because I'm fair, or I try to be anyway, let's talk some Rams-Lions. And as much as I went off about how they should have been the 2 seed, the refs helped the Lions win this game by refusing to call pass interference on anybody who was raping the Rams receivers. I think the refs are completely fucking awful, and there really needs to be something done. We don't have to beat a dead horse, but I just want to be fair. As much as I shit on the Cowboys, I think the only reason the Lions won that game is because the refs helped them out.
Yeah, I think we could actually go back. Something that I wanted to mention in the last game was George Pickens. No. It's only the ref talk that brought it up. I totally forgot about it. You're right to move on. Just but while we're talking about ref watch, George Pickens comes out and says like it's difficult to play against the Bills and the refs. Which fucking Pickens, just go sit down. Just go say it in the locker room. You don't need to say that like outside. The great ones all have the great ones all have a bit of like fucking drama about them and all of that kind of thing. So I don't really mind that George Pickens does that, but just you've already got questions about your character from this season, George. Maybe just get out of there and go to the next season, and then you've answered it with your talent, so there's no need to do that. But the Bills fans, every time the Steelers throw the ball into the offense, are launching snowballs at the Steelers wide receivers, which is funny, but it's a penalty. Like, it's a very obvious penalty. Like, and it's so they're just simply not calling that. And then there was I think there was a hold on Pickens on a 3rd and long. Like, when the game got close, it did seem like a lot of 50-50 calls, which isn't like egregious, like if you get a 50-50 call, but when all the 50-50 calls go one way, I'm not saying it's fixed, obviously. I'm just saying it felt like that at the time. The Steelers were getting close and they were bringing it back, and then a load of 50-50 calls went the other way. But the snowballs in the end zone, that's a clear and obvious penalty that the refs didn't have the balls to make. Like, they didn't have the balls to look at the Bills Mafia and go, penalty on the crowd.
Or at least even warn the crowd. The ref can literally, in between plays, warn the crowd and let them know if this happens again, it's a personal foul against the offense or the home team, because that is a rule that if the fans do anything in the mid to affect a play, that it is a personal foul on the home team.
Yeah, all that being said, I do think the refs had a decent week, like compared to weeks gone by. I can't think of many calls like in the week.
I can't
but
get
it also helps that there's blowouts.
I can't get it out of my head the 2 times they were tackling Puka Nacua at the end of that game before the ball even gets there. And I can't get out of my head the fact that they literally were over the top, stomach on the top of Cooper Kupp's head at the end of that game. And you're like, how do you not call that? Like, and people go, they both have the right to the ball. They do, as long as your body's not shoving Cooper Kupp out of the way to get to the ball. And his stomach was on Cooper Kupp's head, and his body was, and then the ball is right here in the still frame. You know what I mean? Like, it was wild.
I don't mind letting them play. Like, I'm okay with letting them play, which means if you're going to let them play, hits coming in a little early become okay. You're like, oh, all right. Okay,
bang,
hits
bang
coming in
plays.
a little early.
Yes,
you're like,
I get that.
Bang bang plays in the playoffs, that's fine. And a bang bang play can be you get there half a second early. But like a second in that kind of play is a long time. And I say, especially in the Puka Nacua clear pass interference, and Lions fans should come out and say, like, it's not your fault. It's not the Lions' fault that the refs fucked it. So Lions should be able to come out and say, like, yeah, it was pass interference, but the refs, like, the refs got it wrong, but we were still in the position to win that game. Like, credit for the Lions for being in the position to winning the game, getting it done, like finishing it off with the clock and everything like that. Like, it's not necessarily taking away from the Lions to say the refs cost the Rams an obvious first down in that particular play at the end of the game.
And then on that one, it was on the goal line. Like, he's literally sliding down his waist on the goal line. I don't know if he catches that for a touchdown or not, but I know with you tackling him ahead of time, he has zero chance of catching that. You know,
it's clearly a catchable ball. Whether he gets it or not, it is catchable. So it's a catchable ball, obviously. And again, I do think in this game, in the Bills game, I think like throwing snowballs into the end zone is such a kind of like anomaly, and it's very difficult to control the crowd. I do think in this Detroit game, the refs got swayed by the crowd and the story.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah, I was going to ask you
a little bit
the home field advantage of it all.
Yeah, which is all part of home field advantage. Like that, like don't get me wrong. Refs shouldn't be influenced by it, but you see it in all sports. Like you see it in all sports all the time, where like subconscious, they're not consciously going. And luckily, Rams fans aren't fucking mental and don't like.
I don't mean to go off onto a different sport, but in a great example, Scott Foster should never be able to ref a game that Chris Paul plays in, because it's proven that he hates Chris Paul. That Chris Paul's only won one game in his whole career with Scott Foster reffing. Chris Paul's got more fouls than like there's certain things, and you're like, if you see that, I think the leagues need to speak on it more. Like, I think the NFL needs to own, like, I think the NFL needed to come out after the Dallas game and go, the refs completely fucked that. There's nothing we can do about it, but the refs completely fucked that, right?
Yeah,
but they didn't. They came up with stupid little comments to try to twist the narrative.
It was
and
blaming the Lions for it. That was a big issue for me.
Just own it. Just come out and be like, you know what? The refs missed a couple in the Lions-Rams games. Nothing's going to change. But at least if the league was honest, people would stop thinking it's fixed.
Yeah, I also think that the big thing for me, why I think rugby is never fixed, and why you have, we've spoken about this a lot actually recently, about how attitudes towards referees are different. Like in rugby, we should watch this. There's some fucking hilarious videos of like rugby referees treating players like children, like these massive, like 6'9" guys, and you get the ref who's like a short little guy, and he's just like, oh, so funny, so good. But you get this, and I think it is because in professional rugby games, when they're making decisions, you can hear them when they're watching the video replays, you can hear them talking through what their decision process is. So they say, oh, I think he's clearly holding the shirt there, but let's remember this is in slow motion. So is this bang bang? Like, is this? And if they spoke through the decision, I think you would get a lot more people going like, I don't agree with you, but I can see how you ended up at that point, and it's clearly not fixed. The fact that it's not transparent makes it feel really weird. And look, I don't think it's fixed. I don't think it's fixed. I know you probably you don't think it's fixed either. I think they do get caught up in the storylines sometimes a little bit, but I
think
think
it gets personal once in a while too, but I don't think it's fixed.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever fixed. But if you had more transparency, you would get away from that, and it would be really good to hear their thought processes. I quite enjoy hearing it.
Stop letting the fucking ref who made the call decide the replay. Make New York decide the replay. Yeah. This ref has, no offense to the ref, it's human nature. This ref has an invested interest in his call standing. Because you're judged on this kind of things as a ref. Don't make them correct their own mistake. That is wild to me. Let New York correct that in a replay. Why do we have the same ref who made the call going in and putting the camera up to his face, put a headset on, let New York tell him what's what, and then go back, call it out.
I'll talk about it. Like in rugby and in cricket, they do the same thing as well. The umpire makes the decision, and then there's another guy whose job it is to watch the video replay and say, look, this is what I advise. And then they make the decision from there. So if we were listening to that discussion, then I'm like, oh, right, okay.
I think you'd get American fans. I think that would piss American fans off even more. They would find more reason to bitch about the call.
Yeah, I think you should be able to listen to the decision.
I actually think the NFL is smart for not letting you hear what the fuck is said during those things.
Right, okay, fair enough. I think if they were being more smart, they would stop the in-stadium replays of bad calls as well.
That is the worst.
If the NFL were being sport, if they were being smart, they would.
Basketball does it, baseball, hockey. That's the worst take ever. But just the last point on this. There are so many ways that they can help the refs as well. Like the NFL is a slow game, really. It's quick action over a long period of time. So there's quite a lot of time where they can spend time replaying before the next down. Like what it takes 3 seconds to say, oh shit, we need to to quickly watch the play and say, oh, there might be cause for a change of decision there. We replay. I think it's crazy that they don't just basically have the option to replay every single down. Every single time a flag flies, there should be a replay available, or doesn't fly, to be honest. All right. Another game where I watched a lot of pass interference not get called was the Eagles-Bucks game. A lot of fucking defensive holding on the receivers in that game. Jerseys being ripped back. There was a lot of it. They didn't call it either way, but there was a lot of holding going on in that game with the corners.
Yeah, it's okay when you don't call it either way. That's fine. Just adapt if you don't call it either way. What do you think?
I think.
Or do you think just follow the rules?
I don't mind them swallowing the flags, but there is times where you watch a play and you're like, that absolutely changed the whole play, and you didn't throw a flag, and that's where my problem is, right? There was one play where Smith's jersey's being ripped back, and you fucking see it from the Tampa corner. And Philly's trying to come back into the game, and you don't call that. That's that. Those are the ones that bother me, right? But Philly got outclassed in that game. The fact that anybody's talking about Sirianni being fired is absolutely wild to me. It was wild to me, but you already know. It was wild to me that they were talking about Mike McCarthy being fired. Winning coaches,
I understand why it's wild.
That. It blows my mind.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild in a vacuum for me, because I'm so my problem. I'm not necessarily on the fire Sirianni train. What I am is, if they had hindsight, I think they would have sacked Sirianni last year, or even after the Super Bowl, which is ridiculous. Don't do it. Idiotic. I'm not saying but if you have hindsight and they keep Shane Steichen, in the same way that Dan Campbell has just won the Lions' first playoff game in 30 years, but you fire Dan Campbell and keep Ben Johnson. In the same way, if they had hindsight, I'm not saying that that's what they should do right now. And with Syria, and obviously with the amount of coaching talent in this particular pool. And I think
I
the
think
Eagles.
age caught the Eagles. That's what
Yeah.
I think the problem was. I think they're wore out, they're old, and people didn't realize how old they are. And it's finally catching up to them more than I think it was the coaching. And
Yeah.
you're playing with a quarterback who's been fucking injured all year.
Yeah, I think that's a coaching decision for me. For me, that's a coaching decision.
But if you don't have a better option, like that's the thing.
But once you're 10-1 or whatever they were by the time they got to the 49ers game, like they would have actually been better served having Marcus Mariota fucking trotting out there. To be perfectly honest, they would have been better served having Marcus Mariota go out there. Yeah, they get fucking blown out like week on week on week, like fine. But they also lost those games with Jalen Hurts injured in there as well. And that meant Jalen Hurts isn't fit to then play in the Super Bowl.
Well, I get your argument.
He's
like
the playoffs.
An 80% Jalen Hurts is still better than 100% Marcus Mariota to me. Also, it's very hard for a coach to go tell a guy who makes way more money than him that he's got to sit. Like,
yeah, I'm not like
the NFL is wild like that because the players do have so much power in the NBA and the NFL.
Yeah, I'm a fire Sirianni guy if I'm the Eagles because, and I know it's mental. Like I'm a fire Sirianni guy, and I know it's crazy. Well, no, in the same way that I'm fire Mike McCarthy. Actually, as a Cowboys fan, I would rather they keep Sirianni because I don't want. But I'm also a fire Mike McCarthy because of the coaching talent in the current pool. I think if they fire Sirianni, I think the Philadelphia Eagles becomes the number one spot for every coach to go to.
What makes Jim Harbaugh better than Mike McCarthy? Mike McCarthy's been to more NFC championship games. They've been to the same amount of Super Bowls, but Mike won one. Jim didn't. Like, that's my thing. Like, Mike McCarthy.
Aaron Rodgers, Colin Kaepernick.
Mike McCarthy's been to 4 fucking NFC championship games with his teams. He's won a Super Bowl. He coached. If you look at what he did with Tim Rattay, who was a shit quarterback when he played at San Francisco, he had him play the best he's ever played. Like this Cowboy system over the last couple of years looks so much better than it did under Kellen Moore. Like so I don't. That's where I get blown away. Is how are we firing winning coaches?
We'll talk about the Cowboys. I would like to talk about the Cowboys game in a sec because I've gone away, had a 2-hour walk in the snow, and I've been thinking about the NFL and sent you some fun NFL British chant songs and stuff like that in my mind to keep my brain warm. I've been thinking about the NFL, but I feel like every time we talk about the Eagles, I always end up on the fucking Cowboys, and it's just like, That's
but this is like firing winning coaches. That's where this went. I get so confused on firing winning coaches.
Isn't it crazy? They're both so similar as well. Like this year, the Eagles and the Cowboys have been so similar, like all the way through the year. It is so interesting. I like the different points in the year. You look at their win-loss record, who they've beat, who they've lost.
Where it's different is the Cowboys' offense was murking motherfuckers. And the Eagles were squeaking out games. That offense was firing. I have been the one who said, I don't really think it's the X's and O's that are the problem. I think it's the Billies and the Joes. And I also think that the Cowboys get a disservice every year. It's not their fault, but every year there's fucking talking heads on TV. Right, this is the Cowboys year. This is the Cowboys are the best team in the NFL. This is their year. And then your expectations are up here. So unless you win a Super Bowl, you fall short of any realistic expectations.
Yeah. With the
Jerry does that shit to you guys too.
Yeah. Well, like I'm now becoming less fire Mike McCarthy, which is why I want to talk about it in a second, just while we finish with this Eagles Tampa game. So I'm not like if they keep hold of Sirianni, I don't think that that's necessarily a mistake either. I do think Bill Belichick in Philadelphia becomes a very interesting, like,
they're not
person.
Firing Sirianni.
I don't think they're fire. I don't think they will fire Sirianni. I think it would be an interesting thing to do with the Eagles this year. Where I would say, and you very rightly called me out on this because I said I worry with Sirianni that he doesn't call plays and he doesn't take over the play calling when his offense is struggling throughout the year. He hasn't gone over and said, let me call the plays. Like, he changed the defensive play caller, but the offense has been equally struggling throughout the year. And he never said, I'll take over the offense for a little bit at least. Let me take over the offense. And you said, well, Jim Harbaugh isn't a play caller John Harbaugh isn't a play caller.
Dan Campbell, there's some other ones.
Dan Campbell isn't a play caller. There's quite a few like CEO guys. And it's like, yeah, Sirianni gets his guys hyped up. Like, his players love playing for him. Like Pete Carroll, yeah, his players love playing for him. And Sirianni has that. I didn't see the evidence in that down the stretch at all. Like, I don't see the evidence that his players loved him, apart from AJ Brown took the team to an escape room and came out and said how much he loves Nick Sirianni. Like, that's what I saw. I saw in this game.
Sirianni, though, Jason Kelsey's always praising him. You always hear Jalen Hurts talk about how much he loves Sirianni. Yeah. Like, so
they love Sirianni. Do they love Sirianni? Are they motivated by Sirianni? Now, that's not a reason to fucking fire him. Like, the fact he's not motivational, because obviously his motivation also took them to the Super Bowl.
He was just in the Super Bowl, and now he's in the playoffs again the next year. And people are like, fire this dude. Like, that's so crazy to me.
Yeah, in a vacuum, you're so right. And I don't necessarily think that the other guys are so much better than Sirianni in this particular Eagles organization. When you also factor in how stressful it is to be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, the Cowboys is stressful in one way of all the media pressure. The Eagles, and like the fact that Cowboys fans are absolutely fucking nuts. The Eagles are also a big market with their own crazy fans and their own high expectations of the team as well.
And their own crazy media in a different way than Jerry.
Yeah, and their media is mean. Like, the Dallas Cowboys is national media, and the people that are actually in Dallas are actually fine. Like, their media are pretty chill, and they like the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dallas media protects the Cowboys.
Yeah, the actual media in Dallas protects the Cowboys. The media in Philly, it's not national. Yeah. The same in Boston. I said this on the basketball.
They're also close to New York that they have to be that way.
Yeah, New York, Boston,
Baltimore is pretty brutal. Philly.
Baltimore, that Chicago, like, their fucking talk radio shit is really awful as well. So it is really hard for Sirianni, and I don't think you should fire him. I see calls for he should be on the hot seat next season. If the same shit happens next season where they fall apart. But the only issue is with that game, 13 missed tackles. I think it was something like 192 yards for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after contact. And that's not on Sirianni, that his players aren't tackling properly. But it is a commitment thing, I do believe. I do believe a tackle is a commitment thing. And it looked like they gave up in that game. Even the veterans in that game, like, the Philadelphia Eagles looked like to me that they gave up around the second quarter of that game. And the Giants game, they fucking gave up like within the first quarter, but also like they needed the Cowboys to lose anyway, so it didn't really mean anything.
Howie Roseman has his hands full this offseason because he has to pick through which old players are done.
Yeah, which is that's again interesting because we've been saying how fucking great Howie Roseman is all year, and then all of a sudden it's the roster's too old. Like, it's
but he has a great eye for talent. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. And
100%.
He's got a great mind for figuring out how to work the cap too. But even the best eyes and talent, right? You don't know when that veteran player is going to fall off. That's why it's the opposite of Bill Belichick, who was like, I'd rather get rid of you 2 years early than a year late, right? Yeah. So Belichick would be ahead of the game. Most coaches aren't like that. So Jason Kelsey was the best center in football up until 5 weeks ago.
Yeah. So and the final nail in this Eagles coffin, and I do want to praise Tampa in a second after we're done with this, that the Eagles are probably since Thanksgiving around the 26th since the Bills game in the 26th of November. Like, so I can't remember when Thanksgiving is. Is it around that time?
Yeah, it is. It's always the first or the third Thursday of November.
I think the Bills game was their like Thanksgiving week game. Since Thanksgiving, the Eagles have been the second worst team in the NFL. Like, if you look at strength of schedule, who they've played, if you look at the way that they've played, the stats that go against them, the results that they've had, they've been weirdly the second worst team in the NFL. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean their fucking talent is the second worst in the NFL, but they get blown out by the 49ers. They get blown out by the Cowboys. That can happen to anybody. That happened to the fucking Cowboys. Like, that can happen. Like, that's okay. And then they get beat by the Seahawks. They beat the Giants only just. They get beat by the Cardinals, and then they get beat by the Giants again. Like, Carolina, easily the worst team in football.
And the Cardinals were kind of the unforgivable. The rest were playoff teams.
Yeah, that's like it is fine. It's when you look at the stats. So maybe the strength of schedule was a bit of a harsh thing.
Because that is one of the rougher strengths of schedule. If you think about Seahawks, 49ers, Cowboys, that's
I love how this. No, I'm not going to say. I love how the Seahawks are a playoff caliber team.
I'm saying because they're playoff teams. I'm saying that's what makes it that you lost to all playoff teams. I'm not saying that the Seahawks were the best team out there or anything.
Yeah.
But you lost to teams that were like literally in the mix at the end of the year, and now you play them all and get smacked in the mouth, right? That was the Seahawks were right there trying to had a really good shot of making the playoffs at the time. So I'm not saying the Seahawks were a great team, but they were in the top half of the NFL teams, right? Like, because they're trying to make. I think the unforgivable is when you lose to the Cardinals and the Giants at the end of the year when your season's on the line.
Yeah, and I also think that like the second worst team in the NFL, like the Commanders were pretty bad in that time as well. But the Commanders phone it in by then. Like, the Commanders are fucking giving away their two defensive linemen and like.
And I'm not defending the Eagles on this, but it's always weird when it's a divisional opponent because you guys know each other so well. You play so many times, that kind of thing. Yeah. That Cardinals game, it was the worst of the losses because I believe that it bred the loss to the Giants too, if that makes sense.
I agree. I think the frustration from the Cardinals game, as soon as the Giants go up by 14 points in the first quarter, when you need to win that game and the Cowboys need to lose against the Commanders as well, just goes, right, we're phoning it in. And that sets a really bad precedent. As soon as that happened, I was on the train of don't fucking play your starters in this game because it can only go badly in that Giants game. Like, I don't think they should have played any of their starters really. Anyway, like maybe a couple to like keep the tread on the tires, but there's no way that AJ Brown would have been in that game if they took my advice, and AJ Brown could have made the difference against Tampa.
And it's really weird because Baker hasn't looked great the last couple of weeks, but then Baker comes and balls the fuck out in this playoff game. Like, his completion percentage is okay. I mean, he went 22 for 36. But it's 337 and 3 touchdowns with 0 turnovers. That's fucking huge, you know? And
he's the first Buccaneers quarterback to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in a playoff game, including like Tom Brady and including, was it Trent Dilfer? Like another
Brad Johnson
quarterback that they had? Brad Johnson. Right. Okay.
Brad Johnson. Yep. I think people very, very much so underestimated Baker Mayfield. You've been on that train too, like when we were talking about him in the offseason. Like I always said, even in the offseason, I said, I want Kirk, keep me Kirk. But if for some reason we didn't have Kirk, Baker would have been the quarterback I was going after in the offseason. So I think he just upped his payday for the next couple of years. I think they'll definitely give him a new deal. I think he's still on a 2-year deal, but he's only supposed to pay $4 million next year. So I think they're going to have to pay him some more. I think he's proved that.
Tampa would be mad. Tampa would be mad to let go of Baker Mayfield now, especially in the realm of quarterbacks that we're in.
He saved Todd Bowles' job, which is, again, here's the thing. I grew up, and it's only been the last 4 or 5 years where this has changed, where making the playoffs saved your job, except rare circumstances. But that's not where we are in the NFL anymore, which is very wild to me. It's like, oh, you made the NFC Championship game, fire that guy. Like, you know, it's a weird fucking place to be in the NFL right now.
Yeah, it is. Like, Baker definitely saved Todd Bowles' job, which isn't necessarily a good thing for Tampa, actually. either. Like that's just
Their
putting that out
defense
there.
looked good though at the end of the year.
Yeah, it did.
So maybe Todd Bowles just is finally getting it together, with having the team under him now.
Yeah, that's what I kind of wanted to say with Tampa. Actually, like we can discredit the Eagles all we want, and like chat shit about the Eagles. One, the Eagles look like they'd stopped playing. That's fine. Apart from on the defensive line, that was like Devontae Smith looked like he was in like playing. Jalen Hurts, I hesitate to say that he didn't care and wasn't playing. He was fucking injured. So harsh on Jalen Hurts to say that. And and then people have been saying that the Eagles offensive line, this great offensive line, which I believe I texted you at the time trying to be funny, but like this great offensive line is getting dominated and all of that. Like they've given up. I don't think they've given up. I think the Bucs have an excellent defensive line that doesn't get enough credit. Like
I agree with that.
When Tom Brady was the quarterback, we were saying that the Bucs had the best defensive line in the game. Well, they've still got Shaq Barrett. They've still got fucking Vita Vea. The number 9, the guy that they took in the draft, who has a really long name. They took him in the last pick in the 2021 or 2022 draft. On the side. Anyway, whoever he was, really limmy guy, like looks like an absolute fucking nightmare to block. And the Bucs have a case to say they maybe have the best linebacker core in the NFL. And Anton Winfield looks good. Like, look, the Bucs are real on defense, and they've got it together, and it looked good on defense as well.
Yeah, and so this is just a quick question for you. So even though we all know, and there's not even a question, that the Eagles win the division next year because it's been 19 years since there's been a repeat division winner in the fucking so I'm joking, but we know it's not.
No. I agree with you.
We know it's not
the Cowboys won't win it. The Cowboys won't win it. We'll see if the Eagles fall apart is real, and then all of a sudden the Commanders become the best team in the fucking division.
If the Eagles win 11 games next year, make the playoffs, and then get bounced, are you still calling for Sirianni's job? Because what more do people have to do in the NFL? Like, that's the thing. Like, I'm not calling for Sirianni. This is what we got into in the NFL. Like, is it the Bill Belichick effect? Like, if you don't make 10 Super Bowls in 20 years, you're no longer a good coach. Like, I don't know, because I see Vikings fans calling for Kevin O'Connell's job, and I find it the most wild fucking thing in the world.
That's the fucking edges of society. That's just nuts.
But why are they the loudest on the internet is the question.
I think that's Packers fans who have infiltrated your group. That's what's happening. It's
really like there's been people who have hated KOC and Kawasi since the day they signed the hired. And they hate Kawasi because our first pick, Lewis Seen, never panned out. It's like, oh, so you're mad that the first pick that he ever had didn't pan out. But yet this guy has signed undrafted free agents who are fucking balling in the NFL, but that doesn't matter. Like, I just think people are so fickle. It's wild.
I think there's a big trend, and I think I've seen it in American football more than any other sport. And it's in commentary. I wonder if it's an American ratings thing where it's like, new data doesn't change your opinion. Like, mine and yours opinion changes throughout the season quite a lot.
Oh yeah, like, I thought the Eagles were going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And at the end of the season,
we had long arguments.
Nope, I was wrong.
we had long arguments about why the Eagles are not all that. And then at the end of the season, you went, "Yep, I'm wrong." Like, I think they're going to get bounced in the fucking first round. Yeah. Like, we do that because we're normal people. But I think
because we're adults. Okay.
Well, when you see these fucking shows where it's a problem if you change your opinion, that gets held against you. Like,
I watched your buddy Skip Bayless this morning, and I never watched him, but I had to turn it on because of the headline on YouTube. He is screaming for the Cowboys to fire McCarthy, like screaming for it.
Screaming is an over-exaggeration of the desperate need to do it. That's too much. Like,
you're gonna miss out on these big talents, and Skip the table, and
So you get these guys who it's like, I can't change my opinion because I'll look weak.
Like Skip on LeBron.
So Skip, yeah, like Skip on LeBron Skip is another fucking world of doing this, but you like see it all the time. Like I like Nick Wright. People chastise Nick Wright when he changes his opinion, and they say, "Well, you didn't say that 2 weeks ago." Like about Jordan Love, you didn't say that at the start of the season, and I'm like, "Well, fuck yeah, obviously." Like nobody thought that Jordan Love was going to be this. Like nobody, just because I said Jordan Love isn't going to fucking go to the Super Bowl, just because I said I don't think Jordan Love is any good, like doesn't mean that when I see the new data of Jordan Love plays incredibly in a playoff game, and as we watch again, plays quite well down the stretch.
Got killed a couple weeks ago because he flipped his opinion to that I think the Cowboys can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and
he flipped his opinion a few weeks ago, and people just lit him. You're the biggest Cowboys hater. How are you going to say that? And he's like, I still hate the fucking Cowboys. It doesn't change the fact that what I'm seeing with my eyes right now is this is one of the best teams in the NFL.
Yeah,
like
it's like new data changes your opinion, and it's a massive problem in American media. And I think it then trickles down to like people in fucking comments where it's like new data doesn't change anything. So Sirianni, the new data on Sirianni is I would probably, if I knew that I was getting Vrabel, I would get rid of Sirianni. But that's only if I knew I was getting Vrabel.
So much to me in these sports, consistency. Like I don't like the turnover. I get where so I'm not saying I don't understand your guys' argument, even though I don't agree with it. I get where people are saying, would Vrabel be better? Maybe. But you should have thought about that 3 years ago when you hired Sirianni then, instead of right now. Like consistency means something in these leagues, and teams that look at the best teams in the league this year, right? They've had their coaches for a while.
Yeah. So I agree with you, and I think consistency is really important. I think having Sirianni in the Eagles maybe breeds inconsistency.
If they fired him, I think he's hired within a week somewhere.
I find that interesting because I disagree, because I think
this is the times where I almost want them to fire him. Do you get what I'm saying? Just to see which one of us is right.
Yeah, 100%.
What did I tell you? Wait, I said it to you the other day with Mike McCarthy. I pray the Cowboys fire him just so I can be proven right. Like I literally text you that.
Yeah, I like sit there and I'm like, do you know what? I don't actually care which way this goes. With Sirianni, I don't think the Eagles necessarily make a bad decision. They definitely don't make a bad decision if they keep him, and they definitely don't make a bad decision if they fire him, in my opinion. Either way is fine, whichever you decide to do, like whatever. But now I'm like, fire Sirianni so I can see what happens, because I just want to know. But if we get the new data that Sirianni is the guy, and they stay, and next year they make it to the playoffs again and they win the division and whatever. Like, Sirianni was the right guy. You're right. You're right. Sirianni was right. Yeah.
If they win 11 games to go to the playoffs, it's like, are we still calling for his job next year? And it was with Big Mike. I said to you, you'll regret firing Big Mike if you do it. But the football fan in me hopes you fire Big Mike and hires Belichick just so I can see how that would turn out. Like, I said that to you, like, you will regret firing Big Mike if you fire McCarthy. But I pray that you do it, because the football fan in me just wants to see what would happen with Belichick.
Yeah. I think Mike McCarthy 100%. Tampa played really well. The Eagles missed loads of tackles.
If Big Mike Sirianni's today, do you think he's one of the first people to get a head coaching? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you might not think that about Sirianni, but I had to ask about Mike.
Like, I don't think it was Sirianni. I think Sirianni probably takes. I think the stuff around Sirianni is enough to put me off, is enough to put somebody off hiring him, because of the backlash you get if you hire Sirianni.
And this is just stupid football math because it means nothing. But if the Bears are sticking with Eberflus, then the fucking Eagles better stick with Sirianni. Like, you know what I think? There's so much shit that doesn't make sense to me. And like the Bears sticking with Eberflus, or like, as much as I like I don't hate the Cowboys. I've always told you this. I'm not a Cowboys hater. I could give a shit less about the Cowboys either way. The only thing that makes it fun for me is that I get to rib you if something happened to the Cowboys. And you guys put so much pressure on yourselves as a fan base and the media that, like, you're going to eat it. Like, most fan bases aren't going to eat it if they have a collapse. You guys are going to fucking eat it because you're the Cowboys. And I get a little kick out of that. Not your misery, because when it's really in the middle of the game, I feel bad for you. But
that's okay, man.
But I do, because I experience football, so I feel bad for you as a fan going, my team is falling apart. But
I was texting you having a fucking breakdown.
Apart, like, I hate the Packers, but as I'm watching them fall apart, I was kind of enjoying watching the Packers beat the Cowboys, because I have but I would have enjoyed the Packers getting their ass whooped too. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been. But the thought of like, you're not the only one. I've heard so many people after the game go, "That's it, Big Mike's trash. Get rid of him." And I'm like, this is fucking wild to me. If Jerry Jones might do it, but this is fucking wild to me. I don't think he's going anywhere now, though.
Yeah, I think we would have, if he was going, and with what Jerry Jones has said. So just to finish off, Tampa played really well. The Eagles looked like they didn't give a shit at points. There was only a few players that really popped and looked like they gave a shit, and they didn't tackle very well, but that was something that went on all the way through the game, and Tampa look okay. The Cowboys, let's move on. The Dallas Cowboys had a really shit game.
Before we move on, I'm not saying 100%, but I'm leaning for a Tampa upset, but we'll talk about that later.
Let's talk about that on the next show. That's fun. I like that.
Hey, I might change my mind by then, guys, because there is new information.
Yeah, between now and then. Yeah, Tampa's sneakily good. Sneakily solid, maybe. The Cowboys, look, everybody played fucking bad in that game. What I've hated seeing is people comparing whose fault it is that they lost this game, because it's everybody's fucking fault. Like, everybody was awful. Like, organizationally, that game was terrible. On the defensive side of the ball, awful. On the offensive side of the ball, awful. Dak Prescott, terrible. Mike McCarthy's coaching, terrible.
Offensive line let you down. Your quarterback let you down. CeeDee Lamb let you down. Gilmore let you down on 2 occasions, but that happens. Like, I'm just saying, like, I can keep going. Like,
Lamb let you down.
I'm just saying you can go through and
defensive tackles.
Why Micah Parsons didn't take the game over, you could argue. Like, I'm just saying, like, there's enough. But these are the games. These are the games that, like, your greatest players, and I'm not blaming Micah Parsons. I'm just saying these are the games your great players have to step up, right, and overcome. So to just say that this is kind of like why I was defending Big Mike, to say it was just Mike McCarthy, to say I could easily have came on here and had fun with just blasting Dak. Okay, it would have been low-hanging fruit, but it's not the truth of what I really watched happen. Did Dak throw 2 of the worst fucking interceptions you could throw in that game? Yes.
Yeah.
Was there 2 more?
The worst.
Was there 2 more that should have been picked off? Absolutely. But what quarterback have we ever watched, even out of the great ones, who don't do that? I mean, I watched fucking Peyton Manning throw a pick 6 to the Saints in the Super Bowl down the sideline. Does that mean that Peyton Manning no longer is a great quarterback? Like, do you know what I mean? Like this fact that teams are just going to have a problem. And you guys had the problem of multiple players shitting the bed the same day. Okay. There's this old, in psychology, because that's what I went to school for. In psychology, there's an old saying that when 2 people get divorced, sometimes you just had the bad luck of falling out of love with each other at the same time. And people might find that wild. But in relationships, if one person's still really good and you're a solid relationship, right, and the other person's not, there's coming back together from that. But when you're both out on the outside, that's when the relationship's doomed, right? You guys had the worst luck of your defense not stepping up and your offense not stepping up in the same fucking game. And it just happens. And it was the worst game for it to happen to, because it's a win or go home game. If it happened in the regular season, like with the Cardinals, right? You guys just shit the bed against the Cardinals.
So bad. Yeah.
Yeah. You just shit the bed. And it happens. You guys just happen to have it happen in the playoffs now, which is something you have to fucking think about for the whole offseason. And don't get me wrong, the Cowboys were one of the top teams in the NFL. But again, Jerry Jones, the media, and the fans do you guys no service when they're talking about it's Super Bowl or bust every fucking year, which that's actually on Jerry because he's in his 80s and he keeps saying, I want one before I die, which I get it. I get that. But you put so much pressure on this fucking team that the fan base gets so set on, if we don't win a Super Bowl, this was a failure of a season, where if this was any other team besides them or San Francisco, it's like, oh, we have great things to build on. We're going to be better next year. But it doesn't happen with the Cowboys. It doesn't happen with San Francisco. It didn't happen with the Patriots back in the day. Like, there's way too much hype because I don't think it's fair to the players even. Like, to put, should they have won that game? Yes, you should have beat the fucking Packers. And if you would have got bounced in the divisional round, people would have probably talked less shit. But at the end of the day, you made the playoffs. You won the division. You had historic season in certain aspects of that team. You got young players, and you did it without your best player in the secondary. Like, these are the things other teams would be talking about. But because you're the fucking Cowboys, that's not what they're talking about.
Yeah, so where I think that's especially difficult for the Cowboys, especially, and like, obviously the Lions look like they had this go on during the game as well. The Cowboys are one of the best organizations of all time. Like, it's non-questionable. Like, when you look at the amount of Super Bowls that they win, like, you look at the revenue, all of that kind of stuff, like, they're the best, one of the best of all time.
This is not me being a smart ass. How many Super Bowls do you guys have? 4 or 5?
5.
Okay, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's 5.
Yeah, I think
3
right.
in the 90s and then 2 before. I'm pretty sure it's 5. Yeah, so then the Steelers have like 6, I think, is the other one, and then the Patriots have.
And the Patriots are all tied at 6.
Yeah, so the Cowboys have this history that they deal with, and it's always great to have history. It is, as an organization, it's amazing for the play. It helps with free agency. It helps with marketing. Like to say, when players come and they walk into the room and they see the greats that have played for the Dallas Cowboys and played for the Star, what it doesn't help is because they haven't done anything like winning wildcard rounds. Like no, like that's not it. Like,
but
winning wildcard rounds is great.
I will give you shit about the history, but we have to be realistic. And this is what I want you to kind of speak on is, you can argue all you want that they ain't done shit since 96, but Mike McCarthy's only been the head coach for 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. So what ends up happening is they haven't done anything since 96, and they're this amazing organization that everybody watches. So then when the Cowboys go down by 7 points, because of the first drive of the game, the Packers walk down the field, all of a sudden the whole building is like, oh my God, it's the Cowboys again. Oh no, it's the curse in the playoffs again. We haven't been able to do this since 96. Dak Prescott missing CD Lamb on the third down play when we're 7 down. For some reason, it felt like in the stadium, the Cowboys had just lost the entire game in the fourth quarter. Like, because and then the Packers go down and it's 14 points, because we're looking now, there's so much pressure on this massive organization that the media covers every single week, like no matter what happens. And when the Cowboys are playing well, the Cowboys haters are always like, we'll see what happens in the playoffs. We'll see what happens in the playoffs, like every single year, which means the Cowboys people who love them will say, well, they'll show you in the playoffs. They'll show you in the playoffs. And it becomes, and every playoff game is this ball of like just straight up tension. And as soon as they play poorly in a playoff game to start with, it feels like, that's it. The Cowboys are never good. And Dak now has that, because Dak is 1-4 in playoff games and everything. Like, and it's like, oh my God.
Here's
like,
a wild
impossible to deal
comparison to prove your point. This will help prove your point 100%.
Yeah.
We watched the Lions play the Cowboys in a great fucking game. Take out the end where the refs pissed everybody off. Like, everybody left that game. Cowboys fans had to leave that game hearing You didn't win that game. Which
Yeah,
pissed the
yeah, we
Cowboys
got
fans
pissed
off.
off the next day. Cowboys fans get annoyed the next day.
Yeah, Lions fans were pissed off because they really honestly have a good gripe of how they got cheated, right? Like, so there's arguments both sides, but take all that out. That was an amazing fucking game. Is there any argument that both of those teams are really good teams? I don't think so, right? Lions get bounced in the first round. Let's say they would have lost to the Rams. Detroit's like, great season. We love you, Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Jared Goff's our fucking guy. Look at this team. Watch out for us. We're coming. Right?
Yeah.
Cowboys lose in the first round, and it's like, these guys suck. Fire everybody. Dak can't play. Like, I'm just like, the only guy I watched from the Cowboys this year that disappointed me was Pollard.
Yeah, Tony Pollard was.
Tony
Pollard is a second running back.
I watched this whole year and go, you really need to upgrade that guy. Like, I did. I thought that, right? But, like, I can shit on Dak for anything I want to because you can make numbers, right? Yep. Dak's still a better quarterback than Brock Purdy, even though Brock Purdy's great for what he's doing.
Rather you than me.
No, but he is.
Yeah,
he is.
I agree with you.
Maybe Brock Purdy finished his career better than Dak.
Yeah.
But if we had to pick quarterbacks right now this year for 1 year and you started a draft, Dak is getting drafted before Brock Purdy. Maybe because of money and age, you guys could argue it differently. But I'm saying right now, today, we're resetting the whole NFL league. Everybody's getting redrafted, and we're only playing one season. Dak's getting drafted before Brock Purdy. It's not even a question, right? So it's wild to me that we're in a place where two different franchises who both had really great years, both won their division, and played each other in a game that either team could have won. And one franchise loses a playoff game and they're the worst ever. And if the other team would have lost that playoff game, Detroit would have had a fucking parade for them for winning the division and making the playoffs. It's crazy.
They did. Well, Detroit already rose the banner before they even went to the fucking, before they even played a game in the playoffs. They already rose the banner.
Wild,
which is ridiculous.
It should have been the first game of next year, but okay.
Yeah.
It's wild shit. But it's wild to me. So you and the 49ers are the two teams where, and the Eagles for some reason this year too got it because they made the Super Bowl last year. But you and the 49ers, anything less than a Super Bowl is a failure. And it sets these teams and these coaches up in such bad positions. And don't get me wrong, we see the talent. So yes, we're like, you should be going to the NFC. But shit happens. It's sports. That's why the term any given Sunday exists. And it's why the NFL playoffs are the most exciting playoffs out of any sport that I can think of because it's not a series. It's not a 7-game series.
It's one game. It's why,
if this was a 7-game series, you guys beat the Packers 4 times before they beat you. This thing ended 4-1, probably, if this is a 7-game series.
It's like for our British audience, that there are a few that watch the British audience. It's like when Bristol City beat Bristol City, a rubbish team, they're lower than Sunderland in their league. 2 years ago, they beat Manchester United in a cup competition, and then that's one game where you play one game, winner takes all, goes on to the next round, and they beat Manchester United, and everybody in that entire place is like, wow, this is fucking amazing, that's so good. Nobody goes, oh, Manchester United are the fucking shittest team. Well, people do because Manchester United are the Dallas Cowboys.
They're hated. Yeah, football. I get
that. They're hated, but nobody who's really thinking about it goes, Manchester United are fucking the shittest team in the entire world. So I do get it.
I do want to go on to a point about Manchester and Chelsea are the two teams that people who don't know soccer know.
Yeah, that's why I went for
you
Man United. They're amazing. Before
you go on, you would be proud of me. So me and David from Well Beyond the Arc, before they went on, were
big fan of David, by the way,
debating the NBA right now in teams. And I said, bro, if the Lakers are so bad right now, if this was soccer, you'd be in League One. And he looked at me and started laughing. But he got the joke. So you had taught me some shit that I got to use. And he got the joke because he does a soccer podcast and he's from Nigeria. So they're really into soccer also.
Yeah.
But
it's the African Cup of Nations right now.
You'd be proud of me. I used my soccer, my footy knowledge I learned from you.
I'm proud. Yeah, Lakers are like the Lakers, the Yankees, and the Cowboys are the Manchester United of their respective sports. Like
Yeah,
where
that's
they're
another one. The Lakers,
really
if you
good and
don't
they're
win a
hated.
championship, it was a failure
Yeah.
of the season, which is completely wild because you can't win a Super Bowl or a championship every year. How is it that, okay, it's disappointing you guys lost in the first round, right? It is. But if you'd have lost in the NFC Championship game, are we even having these discussions? And that's the thing. Like, it's the same thing as if the Packers go out and beat San Francisco, people are going to be shitting all over. They probably won't call for Shanahan's job for some reason, like they are for McCarthy's, but they're going to call for Brock Purdy to go fuck himself. They're going to call for Nick Bosa to go fuck himself. They're going to so it's very weird. And I almost feel bad for the Cowboys fans. Like, some of you guys bring the shit on yourself, not you, but some of you guys bring some of the shit on yourself. But every fan base has those people, right?
Yeah.
But like Jerry and the media don't do you guys any service whatsoever. You guys had a fucking amazing year that didn't end the way you wanted it to. Well, that's 31 teams doesn't end the way they want it to. Like,
yeah. So just moving on to like the Mike McCarthy job situation. Like when I messaged you, I think I resigned myself to thinking that Jerry Jones is probably going to fire McCarthy anyway. So I may as well just fucking hate him, call for his job, and then I'll feel better like when it happens. Okay. Anyway, now that I think he's staying, which I'm not 100% sure on, but now it looks like he has a much better chance of staying because he's made it to Wednesday than he did the other night. Because he's made it to Wednesday, I think people have taken Jerry Jones into a room and they might have just locked the fucker in there and said, you're not allowed to fire Mike McCarthy until you've chilled out and had to think about it and all of that kind of stuff. What I do think, and the reason why I'm still a bit like, look, get rid of Mike McCarthy isn't a bad thing. I don't think that Mike McCarthy can't coach. He's done a great job for us. I said it on the podcast before. He's done a great job for us since he came in 3 years ago. He's kind of showed us that mediocrity that we had under Jason Garrett, like, isn't successful, isn't acceptable again. And like, if he comes back to coach next year, I'm okay with it. And again, this is a total change of fucking like a total change of what we got. But
I just want to show you headlines that this is how fucking crazy Cowboy fans are. McCarthy interviews for his job next week. Later this week, McCarthy interviewing for his job. Dak Prescott's future. Cut him or trade him. Like, you know, like that. So, I just wanted to show this. This is the wild headlines that are coming out.
Prescott is probably going to finish second in the MVP voting. Dak Prescott is probably going to finish second in the MVP voting this year, and is a second team all pro. So you're probably not going to get rid of Dak Prescott. Like, that's ridiculous. But also, Mike McCarthy isn't to blame for that loss. They probably share a decent amount of the blame here in that loss. Everybody is to blame for that entire debacle. It's so shit. The reason why you do think fire Mike McCarthy, and why I do understand people, even though some people are just like they say fire Mike McCarthy mid-season after the Arizona Cardinals game, like, and stuff like that, which is just crazy. But what it is about this is the Cowboys have this pressure on them, whether the Cowboys like it or not. While Jerry Jones is alive, they have this pressure on them. This is what is going to happen. And probably after, because they're the Dallas fucking Cowboys, but probably less because at least your owner's not fueling the flames.
I get Jerry feeling that way. Quit saying it to the fucking media.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. Like, you do want to say that right to him. So you do have this pressure on the Dallas Cowboys. And Mike McCarthy has shown for 3 years now, we have 3 examples of sample size where they've played great in the regular season. When the pressure's off, the Dallas Cowboy team is the best team in the NFL. Like this year, without any pressure or just the usual regular season pressure, there is cause to say they're the best team in the NFL. When the games are, this is a massive game. If the Cowboys lose this, they're not going to do anything in the playoffs. They're going to show that they can't do anything in the playoffs. They shit the bed against the 49ers. They lose against an Eagles team they should never have lost to. They shit the bed against the Cardinals, which is just a fucking like a shit game where it's just terrible. They shit the bed against the who else did they lose to this year? That looks really bad. They had a really shit loss. Who did they lose to this year? Cardinals. Who else is it? They lost to the Cardinals, the Eagles, the 49ers. Who else did they fucking lose to? Anyway, whoever they lost to. So it's all of this stuff where it's like, this is a really big game. They're going to lose. Mike McCarthy is now given us a sample size of 3 years. And I'm not saying fucking sack the guy after 3 years. I think I am now more on the side of keep Mike McCarthy because I've had time to think about it and go away and actually look at things. So I'm more on the side of keep Mike McCarthy now. But we have 3 examples now of 3 years in a row where Mike McCarthy has shown that we get stiff in those under his leadership as a coach. They get stiff in those big moments. He makes bad play calling decisions at times in those big moments. The team feels that. Great. Thank you. The team feels that like fucking same. The team feels that same pressure that's being put on them. There's no team that listens to the media more than the Dallas Cowboys, apart from the Chicago Bears, but there's no other team that listens to the media more. And it's like, guys, like, if Mike McCarthy can't stop that, then is he the right guy for the job? But I have no idea which coach can stop that in the Dallas Cowboys organization, whilst Jerry Jones is there and Stephen Jones is the de facto GM.
I love you, Montana, but that is like the most ridiculous fucking statement.
So enjoy at least 10 years of losing in round 1 and not even making the playoffs. Win a playoff game until... Really? I'm not sure until he passes away. Win a playoff game is like, all right, Super Bowl, fine. I don't necessarily disagree with you. Win a playoff game. We beat Tom Brady in the last one in Tampa. Beat Tom Brady at home last year. No,
back to how bad the Lakers are. Okay, wait, I'm just kidding. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm on to, like, I understand people calling for Mike McCarthy's job, and I really like. There are so many things in that game.
I'm the McCarthy defender. That's what's wild.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like the Vikings fan defending Mike McCarthy. This is pretty insane. But I understand getting rid of Mike McCarthy, but also he has done an excellent job in the regular season. This team does look better under his leadership than it does on the guys before. So, look at what Hef's just put up on the thing again. I love how hated the Cowboys. Like the Cowboys are the most hated team like ever. It is pretty.
Which
incredible.
Is funny because I don't hate the Cowboys, but like I said, I like to give you jabs about the Cowboys as we go.
So I understand people calling for Mike McCarthy's job because it's 3 years in a row now where he's shown he can't keep that pressure out of the team and they shit the bed. However, they win 12 games. The offense looks way better. Dak Prescott has never looked this good. Like,
if you're still watching Montana, I thought being from Nebraska, you were supposed to be a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, you're meant to be a Cowboys fan, man. Like, come on. But what I will say is there was a lot of coaching problems in that game as well. They went so away from what they do well, the Cowboys team, where it's for some reason they're running it on second down when Tony Pollard can't run the fucking ball. Like, all right, run it on first down, see where we get to, fine. Running it on second when it's second and long, running it again. I'm not so keen on that play. The defense baffled me, and I know it baffled you. Like, playing that much zone, Micah Parsons dropping into coverage. What was that? That was horrendous.
This is going to sound like I'm shitting on Jordan Love, and I'm not. But fuck, besides 2 of those throws, everybody was so fucking wide open that game. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I know I do want to move on to the Packers, actually, because I do think they deserve some love. But what the most worrying thing was the lack of adaptability So the offensive side of the ball, so Mike McCarthy's side of the ball, actually get into the game. And I know, so Dak Prescott, people are fucking whacking up Dak Prescott's stats in this game, and that's just ridiculous. Whereas Dak Prescott threw for 401 yards, so he's immediately had the best game in the fucking shut up. Shut the fuck up. Dak Prescott played awfully when it actually mattered. I don't care that he threw for 401 yards. But the offense did get itself together on the other side of the ball, but the defense couldn't stop anybody. And for some reason, they ran nickel. My defensive formation stuff is terrible. But they run nickel, so they run with 6 DBs throughout the entire fucking game when you're just getting ran down your throat the whole time. Do anything to stop the run in that point. At that point, who gave a fuck if the Packers score another down the field touchdown? Who gives a fuck? If they throw it over our heads and go down. Stop the fucking run. I'm sick of watching them get run over, and that was really poor. That was horrible. And a lot of Cowboys fans are calling for Dan Quinn's job, and I'm not calling for Dan Quinn's job. I don't think we should fire him. I don't think we should fight to keep him if he's going to Seattle either, though, because compensatory draft picks, don't have to then pay his wages, which doesn't matter to fucking Jerry Jones, but, don't have to pay his wages, all of that kind of stuff. So, if he goes to Seattle, I'm okay. If he stays, I'm okay. Mike McCarthy, same there again. I don't want to lose him now that I've actually had some time to think about it and all of that stuff. But if he goes, fine, as long as we can get a Belichick in. I don't think the Cowboys is as good of a job as everybody thinks it is because you have Jerry Jones. And which GM in the league hasn't gone to an NFC championship game since 1995 and still has their job? There's none. So I actually think it's a GM and higher problem than it is Mike McCarthy's.
Okay, I think Jerry becomes a problem, but it's not his eye for talent. That's a problem.
Yeah. His eye for talent is excellent. If Jerry Jones was a fucking scout, he'd probably be the best scout, one of the best scouts in the league.
If Jerry Jones would just shut the fuck up and stop talking to the media.
Yeah, he could be one of the best owners in the league, Jerry Jones. And you think the older he gets, the less likely he's able to go on fucking radio shows. And he has his own radio show slot in the city of Dallas. It's just fucking stupid. No owner wants that. Do you want to chat a little bit about the Packers and how the Packers actually also played really well in this game as well? The Cowboys were outclassed. The Eagles looks a bit more on effort. I think the Cowboys were down to effort and just playing poorly, and the moment was too big for them. The moment wasn't too big for Jordan Love. People are saying that Jordan Love had a better game than CJ Stroud. I don't agree with that because Stroud was throwing to less wide open receivers, as you said, but the off-platform throws that Jordan Love has to go for is very impressive. He looked good in this game. Do I think it's a continuation of the fucking Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Famer thing? If you do that, you're going to do the same thing as what the Cowboys have been doing and put unnecessary pressure on your quarterback to be one of the greats, because every time he does something well, he's Aaron Rodgers.
I want to know what everybody has to say about Jordan Love after they get spanked on Saturday.
Yeah, throwing 2 interceptions, when guys
I have this feeling the Packers are gonna get fucking routed by the 49ers. So was it? I find this game more of an anomaly than what we're gonna see moving forward, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. I think, people are saying, I heard somebody fucking say, I can't remember what show this was on. Honestly, yes, yeah, no, but the thing with that particular meme is, yes, we are still them boys. We're just sad. I still support the Cowboys. Oh my god. I heard somebody say this on a show, and I can't for the life of me, can't remember who it is. But they said that Jordan Love now, where does he rank in NFC quarterbacks this year? And I'm like, guys, let's calm the fuck down. Let's chill out on Love. Jordan Love played really, really, really well. This is his third year. This is his third year in the NFL.
That's what he's going up against.
Yeah. This is everybody's treating Jordan Love like he's some rookie that's come out of the Bronx brand new, like CJ Stroud, and is like tearing this shit up. Jordan Love is in his third year in the NFL, has had the time to sit, has had a good situation, has 4 years. This is his fourth year in the NFL. His fourth year in the NFL, has had time to sit behind one of the greatest of all time. The wide receiver core looks great. Is he in the top 20 in NFL quarterbacks? Yes, of course he is. Like, maybe he's in the top 15 in this season, but guys, let's calm down on Jordan Love just a little bit. Like, he looked good.
To give some perspective, Mason Rudolph has sat for what, 3 years now, and he looks 100. Not that he's on a top level, but he looks 100 times better than he did as a rookie.
Yeah,
there's something about sitting and learning the game that they don't let anybody do anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's because you get people like CJ Stroud who come straight out of college and are like just fucking amazing. So you don't want to.
Bryce Young is the argument on why you probably should. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let guys,
especially in that Panthers organization this year. Like, no quarterback was playing well in that Panthers organization. So why sacrifice your number 1 overall pick in that like thing? But the Jordan Love conversation is fascinating because where did we see when he came into play for Rodgers as a backup quarterback? We didn't see this at all. Like, we didn't see it at all. Like, it was nothing.
He's got a great young receiving core too. Like, people discredit Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Watson. Like, these guys can fucking play and they're young.
He's got a great wide receiving core and they roll together. Like, it always sounds like when you're calming people down, it sounds like you're chatting shit. Like, we're not chatting shit about Jordan Love. Like, I think Jordan Love is a good starting quarterback. He'll probably be the starting quarterback for the Packers for a long time. I've changed my opinion on him throughout the season as he's got better, but I don't think he's this NFL great. Is he better than, like, in the NFC? Is he better than Kirk Cousins? No. Is he better than Dak Prescott? No. Is he better than Brock Purdy? No. Like,
Jared Goff? No.
Is he better than Jared Goff? Like, no, he's not. Is he better than Matthew Stafford? Absolutely fucking not. So, like, let's calm down a little bit.
Go on Facebook, scroll back to the Yankee and the Brit. It used to be the NFC North, so there's still a lot of posts in the back from there. I praised Jordan Love coming out of college. He was somebody I wanted the Vikings to draft. So it's not that I have this hate for Jordan Love. I'm not sure how good he is yet. Like, this is one of those games where he did great, but the Cowboys played fucking awful too. Like, it's one of those games. I'm not sure.
What that game to me, the Tampa game actually felt a little bit more like Tampa, like the Eagles played poorly, but I feel like Tampa won that game. This game, I think the Cowboys lost. Like, the Packers played really well, but the Cowboys were dropping balls, throwing interceptions, giving them, like, basically saying to Aaron Jones, oh yeah, we're going to leave this middle wide open. You're going to have light boxes the entire time. Run straight through. Like, go for it. That's totally fine.
Show me again Jordan Love. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I want to watch Jordan Love next year now, and we'll see. And, like, I want to see it as well. Like, he's a good quarterback.
All right. We spent 2 hours going off on the previous playoffs, but we covered a lot. I liked it. It was a good show, and I had a lot of fun with it.
Maybe we should. I like 2 hour long podcasts to listen to them myself. So maybe we do more. It's funny that this is the least games we've had to cover in the season, but it's double the amount of time as our normal shows.
Yeah, because it's the top teams now we're talking about, though. So you get more in depth into what happened. And, like, we talked a lot about the coaching and all of that stuff in these games and how wild NFL fans are on how quick they are to try to, like, cut somebody and get rid of them. And they're so, like, NFL fans are so fickle. Like, nobody has patience for the process anymore.
Yeah. Like, the process of building your team. Like, we've spoke about this. I remember we did a show and we were talking about the Texans. I can't remember if it was in this offseason or the offseason before that, where we said, I like that the Texans are taking their time. Not everybody can burn it down and just start again. Like, take your time with the rebuild. Give the time. Who's their GM? I always
Caserio.
Caserio, because we were saying give Caserio time. Like we weren't saying give Buddy Love time. We were saying like he's probably not your guy to be the coach going forward, but he's good hands right now while you wait to find the guy. And Sirianni, the GM, he builds this team. They eventually find their quarterback to fit in there, and they give their quarterback a really good situation, and they make the perfect head coaching hire. Like the Lions, they gave Dan Campbell the time to build his team. Like, do I think Dan Campbell's the reason that the Lions are fucking amazing? No, not at all. I've gone off Dan Campbell in the past like 5 weeks of the NFL season, and I think they're again coming out and everybody's saying like, I love that the Lions play with emotion. I love this. I love that. And I'm like, I think them playing with emotion, I think should have really lost them the game in that second half. They don't do anything on the offensive side of the ball in the second half. And they get help from the referees, which like you're in the position to get help from the referees. So that's fine. Like it's not on you that the referees fucked up. So, but the Lions have given him time to build his roster and everything like that. That's really great.
30 years.
No fickle.
They gave the Lions 30 years to build that roster.
If the Lions go to an NFC championship game, you're just not going to hear the end of it for probably the next 10 years. It's why, like, I don't like the argument that a load of Cowboys fans and a load of Eagles fans are saying, like, basically slagging each other off. I'm like, guys, we're both as bad as each other. We both lost the teams that we should be. Our rosters are too good for this. Like, should we all chill the fuck out and stop, like, just having a go at each other? But Lions fans are going to go, like, no matter how bad they are for the next 10 years, if they go to an NFC championship game, like, you're not going to hear the end of it for a long time.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back this week to talk about those games and who we think is going to win. Appreciate any of you who watched. Thank you guys for watching on Rumble. We appreciate you. Since I got a battle with YouTube right now that is fucking ridiculous, but that's neither here nor there. And let us know in the comments what you think we're right about, what you think we're wrong about. Share, like, make sure you hit that subscribe and check out all the other shows and hit the notification button because we'll be back this week to break down these weekend's games. And this is when the playoffs start to really get exciting because we're in the divisional round.
This is my favorite weekend of football coming up because the Super Wildcard round is now too long. Having it on Mondays is too long.
I like it.
Too long for me. I'd rather sit and watch all 3 games on Saturday and Sunday. Like
I want games 7 days a week, but my wife would hate it.
Yeah, well, for me, I have to stay up until fucking like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. But obviously, America put games on whenever the fuck you want. But this is my favorite weekend of football because Saturday and Sunday is the only time I need to sit and watch them, and that's so exciting for me.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be back. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.